So I'm back again, giving you some value on runners who are picking up injuries and how to solve this, because this is a very common thing which runners tend to go through, me included, years ago, when you're having to go and see the physio because you've picked up an injury, and then you're having to be in a position where you have to do these boring exercises to get yourself out the injury and get back running again. But in reality, guys, there is some areas I want you to solve. So make sure you listen up, make sure you subscribe, and let's get into it. So first of all, guys, I want you to consider, focus your attention on here is the position that you're in right now. There is a reason behind why that happened. Now, that could be a number of reasons. Now, most of the time, it's going to relate to no strength training sessions and basically just going out for runs, but also for running as well. If your mileage is increasing and the intensity of your training is increasing quite a lot, then it's going to impact your recovery, and then you're all of a sudden going to slowly start to pick up injuries. Now, that's on the running side, which I don't necessarily coach people on. The area I'm coaching you on is making sure that you understand strength and nutrition to be in the strongest possible position as a runner. Now, most of the time when you're in this position, you've picked up an injury, you may be out from running as well, and you start to tick off these physio exercises because you know you need to do it because you want to get back out running. So you're probably quite consistent with whatever the physio tells you. Just give me the exercise. I will do it. I will tick it off because I want to get myself out running. But what happens after that? We go through this vicious cycle, this hamster wheel of, picking up an injury, going to see the physio, doing the physio exercise, getting yourself back out running again and going, oh, do you know what? I don't need that exercise anymore. Like it's okay now. I'm feeling great. So I might as well move strength training to one side and let's just get myself back out running. You may be in a position where you do start to incorporate strength movements. But, as we already know, most of the time, guys, when this generally tends to happen is life's going to kick in sometimes. You're not necessarily going to feel motivated all the time to deliver that movement. And you're also going to be in a position where, you really enjoy running and you just want to get out and run. You may also be in a position where you are going into a training block and you don't necessarily want strength training to impact your recovery. So you move it to one side. There is so many reasons of why we're maybe not consistent with strength training. And I just need you to consider a few factors of the reasons for why it happened in the first place. Now, you may also be in a position where you actually do strength training exercises and you still pick up injuries. And that's down to potentially the prescription that you're doing of that exercise, whether it's you doing the exercise yourself and just going in and doing a workout, or you going to see someone who's maybe not necessarily qualified in conditioning for runners, and they give you something which is relatively intense. It's like a full body workout session. It impacts the recovery, and all of a sudden you're still picking up injuries. And you also may be doing like workout apps. Let's just say like, there's a HIIT training session that you're doing or whatever else on YouTube. You also may be in a position where you're going to classes because it motivates you to do it to do a class. It's like I'm going to go to the class because it helps because you got an instructor at the front, motivating you, pushing you on. You're getting a little bit of a sweat on. You're like, this is great. I'm in a great position because I'm getting a bit of a sweat on, and you think that you're moving forward, but in reality, down the line, it's impacting your recovery. So there's a number of reasons what I want to discuss with you of how to solve this situation. Now, I'm here to make sure that you understand strength training, you learn about the phases that are needed to get yourself in the most strongest position possible. Because here's the thing, if you're in a position right now where you are picking up injuries, you're not recovering, you've maybe been out from an injury as well, and you're really conscious about how your running's going to go, there's usually a reason why this is happening. Most of the time, it's a number of reasons, but the main reason I want you to consider focus your attention on is the fact that we need sport-specific exercises which relate to running in the first place. That's the first point. Because here's the thing, if you're doing exercises which are very, very demanding, and they impact the recovery, and then you're running as well, especially on a high mileage within a training block, then that's going to push us to a position where it's going to impact our recovery. So we need to think about sport-specific exercises which actually relate to running. Now, what does that actually look like? Now, a lot of runners are very quad dominant, so they'll wear the front of the legs more than they'll wear the back. So a very common area which gets picked up with niggles and injuries is usually knees most of the time. There's so many runners that I speak to have got knee injuries. And usually the reason why this is happening is because the frontal legs are working quite a lot and then the back of the legs get neglected. So you working on exercises which work on the back of the legs is going to be helpful for you to move forwards. And another thing as well is like runners are on a balancing act all the time. Like, so wouldn't it be helpful for you to do movements where you are stood on one foot and you're working on balance exercises? Great. That's a main thing for us to consider. Also, exercises which are working maybe like the lower part of our leg as well, things like calf raises, for instance, can be really, really beneficial. So some of these movements that I've just explained are great for you to work on sport specific movements. Now, you don't necessarily need to be working on a really high intensity as well. That's another thing, is because the second point which I'm going to bring up is like if you're working on demand and strength training exercises and your running mileage is quite high, then it's going to impact your recovery. As I explained to you before, why injuries are impacted with running, it's like the intensity goes up and the volume goes up at the same time. And it's the exact same thing with strength training, is if the intensity goes up with strength training and like you're putting a lot of sessions in with that as well, and your running mileage is just quite high at the same time and you're pushing with that, it's like you're putting too much pressure on yourself. You're trying to cram everything in all at once. And all of a sudden, this is the reason why we pick up injuries. So that's the second thing as well. Is like the first thing is specific exercises related to running. And the second point as well is making sure that we don't push, volume and intensity and strength training all at once and running all at once. We need to work on phases because that will impact us in some form of way moving forwards. Now, what we do need to do as well as the third point is you need to time your workouts correctly, because in reality, like there's always going to be like a long run that you're doing. Like, let's say for instance, I'm like doing this waving on my hand, but like you're in a position where you've got your long run, let's say a Sunday. So here's Sunday here on this side, and here's your Monday, right? So this is your week alongside here. Now, Sunday's your long run. Now, towards the start of the week, do an exercise session which is quite demanding because you know it's going to impact your recovery. And that could be a full body workout session as well, like you could do. And then leading in towards the end of the week, we work on a sport specific exercise. I'm just going to move my hand across there. So it's like related to moving towards the weekend, because they're usually less demanding. Because if you're on one foot, you can't lift as heavy. It's not as demanding. So it's not as taxing on the nervous system and on your body with regards to recovery. So it's actually quite helpful to move that session in. That's another reason what we need to do as well, is we need to time our sessions correctly. So there are a number of things that I would consider focus your attention on. And then the next thing is we need to work on phases to build the strongest foundation. This isn't necessarily just about like doing the exercises which are related to sport specific and timing them in correctly as well. If you want to become the strongest version of yourself as a runner, you have to work on phases. Like you need to make sure that you're in a position where you are strong all over. Like it's really, really helpful. Like a lot of athletes will do the same thing. So why aren't you doing it? Like athletes have off seasons. They don't just do races and always in a training block like throughout the whole of the year. That doesn't happen. What does happen with them is they finish something and they go maybe into an off season and they'll work on different components of fitness. And them components can fitness, especially for you guys as well, is strength training. It's really, really beneficial for you to work on very demanding workouts. Running takes a little bit of a back seat. So you build that foundation before you actually get into your training block in the first place, which I think is really, really helpful for you. And that's probably one big area which I find is missing with a lot of runners, is they don't necessarily consider this. And when you start to break the phases down, work on that off season, when you go into the in season, then you're in a really strong position. You've not got many weak areas. And then you start to work then on workouts which are less demanding because your running's taking priority right now. And then you're moving forward to that. You're probably going to do more sport specific exercises, which, are less demanding. You're less likely to do as many full body workout sessions like squats and deadlifts and, all of these things which impact your recovery. You can still implement them in. It's not as if you're going to take them away totally because they're really helpful. Squats and deadlifts are amazing. We probably don't want to be incorporating them in all the time because we know when running mileage is high, if you're doing a deadlift session or a squat session, it can impact us with regards to our recovery for quite a while. Like, so we just need to consider these things as well. And as I say, training load, volume needs to come down a little bit more in your training block because strength training isn't necessarily the most priority. So you might reduce your sessions down. And when you're in off season, you might increase your sessions up a little bit. And it's about breaking these goals down in the best possible way. So you have more understanding of how to strength train in the best possible way because you need to break these goals down. Need to work on the correct movements at the correct time period, and it needs to be changed consistently to get yourself the best possible results. Because one of the big reasons I feel like, runners aren't necessarily consistent with things is they don't necessarily understand strength training, which relates to running. And that's not just like, oh yeah, we do some sport specific exercises. It's a lot further with that. It's making sure that you understand where you are within your calendar year, when to change things around, how to increase your volume, how to decrease things, listening to your body as well. It's like sometimes it's going to be a bit of trial and error, guys. You're never going to get it completely correct all the time, including myself. And it's about understanding when you are in a position when running mileage changes is like, what's my next goal? Where do I move forwards? Because when you start to learn these things and you do it consistently, it's not just going to go in straight away and you're going to understand what you need to do. You need to understand how your body is reacting to recovery. Recovery is one of the biggest things which impacts runners and gets them in a position where they pick up injuries. So strength training is a massive priority for this, guys. And then like my final point is injuries don't necessarily just come from strength training alone and running. It can also come from nutrition as well. As a point I want to bring up with you today, guys, is like not a lot of people think about that when they relate running and nutrition and strength training together combined is like all of them things, if you work on them really well, can get you in the best possible position to recover well. Now, nutrition, it's like really important for you to consider, as I mentioned before, fueling to support the recovery process. Because if you're in a position consistently like under fueling, and I'm not going to go into fueling a great deal, but if you're in a position where you start to like not carb load or you don't have enough calories before, especially a longer run, because that's when you're going to use up a lot of energy and you're consistently going into runs under fueling, and you might be that person as well as like, I want to lose weight. It's quite common for people who want to lose weight. They're in that disposition as well. So they get themselves in a position where they maybe want to lose weight. They under fuel because they want to take foods away because they want to, lose a bit of weight, get lighter, so they can run a little bit quicker. But slowly but surely that's chipping away at you with regards to recovery. First of all, it's like I feel a little bit tired after me run. And you're going in after a few weeks as well, and it's like, the delayed onset muscle soreness is there for a number of, days after a long run. And obviously you're slowly starting a niggle picked up as well with one of your runs. But you keep pushing through, like you're aware of it, but like it's not really bothering you that much. But all of a sudden it starts to chip away at you again. All of a sudden it's like it's really uncomfortable now within me run. It's like I'm feeling something. I need to ease back a little bit more as well. And you may push things so far where you have like quite a serious injury as well, and this does impact us. And it puts a lot of like fear into us as well with runners. Like a lot of runners that I speak to, they're very conscious about, especially when they've had an injury again of like, what's going to happen next? Am I going to pick up an injury again? All of these things, which you're very conscious, you're very fearful of actually running again. And the big thing that I generally tend to do, guys, is being in a position where I get runners to feel confident again with running. Like that is so important to feel confident of the direction that you're going in, but also as well feel confident around doing strength training. Do not feel confused of what to do and when to do it, because that's a big area as well. It's like we know exactly what we need to do, and then we solve that situation and we start to find our love for strength training a little bit. It's maybe not on the like the highest priority, like it's not up with running, but it's maybe gone from like here to maybe a low belt there sort of thing, which I'm perfectly fine with. Like, if I, take a client on and after like, 6 to 12 months of work with me, they're like, I'm quite consistent. I'm actually enjoying going to the gym now, Dan. I like getting my workouts done and all of these things. It's like I'm happy because it's part of their life now. Like they're in a position where they understand strength training, which relates to them, and nutrition as well, because I think it definitely relates to the recovery process and the injuries as well. Because the last thing that you want to be doing, guys, is going through this hamster wheel of going to see the physio, picking up an injury, having to do them boring exercises that you have to do, and then getting yourself back out running again. And then just kind of like over a period of maybe like a few months, you kind of forget about strength training again. And it's like, and then maybe like a few months later after that, it's all of a sudden the injury's picked up again. It's like, we need to solve this. If we're in a position that you need to be in right now, you need to solve it. You need to make sure that you're progressing and moving forward and just getting yourself in the most confident position possible. So, guys, I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a little bit more information around injuries and prevention to move yourself forward to things. I have actually got a guide that I'm actually going to drop for you. All you would need to do is just click the link in the description here, and that's going to give you a little bit more support around strength and nutrition to get yourself moving forwards, guys. And if there's any other questions at all, you can just add some comments in below and make sure that you hit the subscribe button. I'll speak to you soon.